I'm David Angelo. Welcome to Economics. You know, sometimes people disagree with me, and usually they have a pretty good reason too, like either they're intellectually inferior, jet-lagged, or suffering from massive head trauma. You know, it happens. But, aside from always being wrong, they also always use the same phrases over and over again. And today I'd like to talk about one of those. Today's topic, Trickle Down Economics. Now, I have to assume you guys are all advanced enough in your brainwashing to be familiar with trickle-down economics and what that means. But if you aren't, try reading the Huffington Post or Daily Kos, or perhaps a more centrist publication like the Communist Manifesto. Here's a little primer for you.
Trickle-down economics. The idea of trickle-down economics is basically this. You cut tax rates for the richest Americans. Therefore, the richest Americans have more. They have more money in their pockets. Therefore, they have more money to spend and invest. And as they spend and invest, the effect of rich people's good fortune and rich people's spending trickles down to everybody else in the economy.
Sure, they say there will be winners and losers, but if the winners do really well, then jobs and prosperity will eventually trickle down to everybody else. But here's the problem. It doesn't work. It has never worked.
Now, when I was young, I was very liberal. In fact, I refused to play Cowboys and Indians. I'd only play Woodward and Bernstein. So I'm familiar with this smokescreen propaganda version of trickle-down economics, so, I get it. But today I want to talk about the real trickle-down economics, one that just eclipses this meaningless tax cut stuff. Just think for a minute about our current economic policy. What is it? Well, we got deficit spending, TARP programs, artificially low interest rates, Federal Reserve asset purchases. They're literally just printing money and giving it to Wall Street and government contractors. That's the genius progressive plan to fix the economy, is to give money to the rich. Does that sound familiar? You may have heard the term quantitative easing. That's the Federal Reserve's program to buy $85 billion in securities every month. Now, what are they buying? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's not a fair trade granola at the farmer's market. And money goes straight to Wall Street. By comparison, the Bush tax cuts were $80 billion a year. This is $85 billion a month, and it's just one aspect of one program. Now, let's keep trickling here for a minute. The Federal Reserve prints money to buy government debt. But they can't do that directly. They have to go through the major Wall Street firms. Wall Street has middlemanned at least $1.4 trillion in government securities. That's just free money. That's literally free money. Now let's keep trickling down here for a minute, okay? Now, when you were all in hysterics over getting a 3% tax increase on the rich, the Federal Reserve went out and bought $1.2 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. That's $1.2 trillion made out to Wall Street. Then we got these artificially low interest rates. What does that do? Well, it makes it more profitable for banks to lend commercially. It makes it cheaper for corporations to borrow money. And it stimulates the stock market because everyone has to put their money in there because it's the only place they can get any kind of return. The government's economic plan is a multi-trillion-dollar stock and bond stimulus program. And who benefits from that? Well, the top 10% owns 90% of stocks and bonds. And that's the real trickle down here, okay? Taxes are nothing. The government's official policy is to give trillions of dollars to Wall Street and then steer the entire economy into the stock market. Now, it's always easy for people to say that I oppose our current policies because I hate minorities and poor people. But you know what? I take offense to that because my hatred of minorities and poor people has very little to do with it. I oppose these policies because they're unfair, they compound our problems, and
it doesn't work. It has never worked.
If only someone could tell President Obama that.